guys, today we're gonna visit a place where you have a stone Trabant in the parking lot. And of course we had to take another Trabi. It's got an odd color because it's actually used it for advertisement, but I know the guy who has the world largest Trabant parts supplier place called Trabant Welt, and he let me use his Trabi to come to the Trabant Museum. Actually, it's not exactly a Trabant museum because Trabant was a recent history, but before that there was August Horsch, I can't pronounce it. August Horsch, let's just call it that way. That was his factory, and they made all kind of the predecessors of Audi, but let's not get forward too much. Let's just go into this museum and see what's inside. We just bought our tickets, and as our journey starts, they're gonna explain how these four brands went together and formed Auto Union. So there was Audi, and there was DKW, Horch, and Wanderer. And from these four companies, they formed a concern called Auto Union. And to demonstrate these, they have four cars from these manufacturers down there. And of course, the first one was a little Audi, then a DKW, and then a Horch, which was a really expensive, fancy pants car, and the Wanderer down there, if you can see it down there. Now let's continue and go into the museum. The first car is an Audi. I'm very unfamiliar with this one, although I've seen one before from 1936, which was bodied in Hungary and had a little four-cylinder engine. There's one of these cars in Nashville. I just seen it 3 weeks ago, and it's had a French license plate on it. I wonder why, because it's a German car. It looks like it's a leftover piece with very large Bosch lights on the front. You can see that really old Bosch sign on it. And of course it has the little armed signal light on the right side and the left side. This was an electromagnetic piece what came out, and you had a little orange color on it. It's got the suicide doors on the front and regular doors on the back. But this has nothing to do with the Audi or Horches or anything else. What's in this museum, I'm not really sure why it's here. It says it's 2.5 liter and it was built in 1939. If you want to see one in the US, go to the Lane Car Museum in Nashville, and you can see one in the basement. As we continue, there is a 1916 Wanderer truck with solid wheels and solid rubber tires. It's always raining in Germany, or if it hasn't rained, it will in a second. So it's very important to protect the people who drive in it. Got a mechanical windshield wiper which you can move from the inside. There's no electricity involved. They got larger lights and tiny lights. Very nice radiator in it. A very old-fashioned radiator in it. Looks great. And then there are two rifles on the side, which I really appreciate. Yeah, back in the States, we just used to keep the guns in the back window, not in the outside. But since it's a military vehicle, I guess it was important to have it. I don't know how they didn't get wet, but looks pretty cool. And we actually, you can see an original Audi. This is without the rings, of course, because it was before the Auto Union concern formed. You can see the original Audi sign and the carbide lights. The way these carbide lights work is that there's actually a fire there what you can light. You can open up this window here and catch the gas on fire, and this is the gas generator down here. This is one generating the gas, and then the gas will arrive there on that pipe / hose. Inside, it's very interesting to see that the dash is actually way down there. It's got a rubber steering wheel. Sorry, rubber. It's got a wooden steering wheel, and the horn on the outside. Very nicely upholstered interior. And next to it, it's a Wanderer with a super duper gas generator. It's actually got two hoses coming out of it. It's got the outside arms where you can shift gears and brake. And you can see the dash way down there. It's like 1 speedometer. That's all the dash you got. And then you can see how nicely it's done. And this is for the lords to sit in the back. It was kind of an expensive car. You can see some old pictures on the side. All the way around. Now we're gonna see some engine development parts. Very interesting. They used the aluminum base, and you were able to pull the whole engine out to service it, and then you had access to it very nicely. You can see the rocker arms actually chromed rocker arms which you had to oil. There's the oiling parts, and then yeah, you can just see it from when you pull it out, you can just work on it really easily. This engine also follows the same concept where you pull the whole engine out and you can work on it. This is a 1911 Horsch engine with aluminum fan. Look at that. Looks very, very odd looking. It's a, well, I don't know if it's a 2-cylinder. It looks like it's a 2-cylinder version, but it's got it had a 4-cylinder. My bad. It's a 4-cylinder engine. This one also a 4-cylinder engine made by Horsch, and you have a central oiling system on it. And this was developing not too many horsepower, 40 horsepower almost. It was a lot at that time. And you can see you can put the little gas in here, and then you open it up, so you can. That was basically the choke to add additional gasoline in there, so it would start running. And I think that looks like a magneto, but I'm not really sure. This was an overhead valve designed from 1913, so that was a pretty early engine. And look, they had an overhead valve setup. We were showing it to you on the picture up there. You can see it very nicely. And this was also water cooled, gigantic clutch in the back with a fan. This is my favorite radiator from all. That would look really good on my race car when I'm building. And it's of course an overhead valve engine. They made it between 1904 and 1939. This is an Audi power plant, and you can see the whole thing can be pulled out from the car. It's all sitting on an aluminum frame. There's the transmission. There's the band going around for the parking brake, or sorry, for the regular brake. So that drive shaft brake in it. Looks like it would turn. You can see the crankcase on the bottom. Of course, the carburetor and the inside of the radiator. There's a larger Horsch engine. You can see the overhead valves, the way it works, the camshaft and the pistons, the crankshaft. And this is an old V8 engine, what you see here from Horsch. Very weird. You can see the way the valves were pushed. It's a really tiny engine compared to the engines today. This was a staple of the European street corner, is that they were advertising signs all over the place. And then you can see a gas station here, which they nicely furnished here with all kind of original equipment. Like this is a oiling carriage. And then you can see a little compressor, tiny little thing right there. I guess it was pretty handy. You can go inside the shop and then see all the stamps, telephone, the guy in the original overalls, and all the other stuff you can buy. And also they had to have a bicycle too. There's a very nice picture of a street from before. There's a big Mercedes truck there, and an Auto Union. These are gas station pumps. I guess for car guys it looks very familiar from the American side, that you actually had to pump it up to a nice glass container and then went down into your car, and you had a mechanical pump on it. This one also, you have that dual glass container, and then it came down. And a very interesting motorcycle in front of them, which looks like it's a model PW25. I really don't know what that is, but maybe some of you do who like motorcycles. Continuing our journey in the Audi land, you can see one of these. Look at this drivetrain. That was so advanced for its time. Incredible. There was no rocker arms, push rods, no. And here's one of the frames there. You can see how they been put in, so you can actually pull out that base, that aluminum base, and work on the engine. You can work on the engine. These were mechanical brakes by a booster pump. So I think it was it's boosted, so you can see it's cable brakes. So cable's actually pulling the brakes, and as you come back, you can see the booster part here that thing. And then yeah, it's just crazy. There's the oil part that boosts up the pressure in that booster. So it's all hydraulically boosted mechanical brakes. And of course the mechanical shock absorbers, which might be familiar for some Austin Hilly owners like myself. Gigantic drum brakes, all four corners. Next one is a very elegant horse car. Looks like it was the it was between the two wars. I think it was a military vehicle, or yeah, it looks like a military vehicle. You can look at on the wall, showing the soldiers coming and going. They painted the same color as their uniforms. But this was 1930, so it was between the two wars. Yeah, I thought it correctly. I was wondering what was the Audi sign look like. This is how it looked like. This was an old Horsch fire truck, comparable to, well, it was like an AA truck. It's kind of the same size, but I assume it was a little bit more advanced and way more expensive than a Ford truck. But you can see they actually remade the leather for it, and all the nozzles are present. This thing is a gigantic Horsch version of a limousine. It's all covered. There is a window in between the compartments of the driver and the back part. I guess it's only very wealthy individuals who are able to afford to be carried around with this one. And there's a trunk on the back, so that's where the trunk word came from. They put a big box in the back, and that's where the trunk is a trunk. And again, a very nice display of how Auto Union formed. The first one is Audi, then DKW. DKW also made motorcycles. We'll see some of them downstairs, and they're really big Horsch. That's a Horch or Horch. I don't know how to pronounce this still. There was a very elegant big car, and then a mid-size car, like a mid-market car of the Wanderer. Later on, this car became the Wartburg, I believe. Continuing our journey, you can see an F8 Auto Union now, or a DKW, and this had a two-stroke engine. And since there is not too many metal around, they actually substituted metal with vinyl on the side. So there was a lot of wood in it and some vinyl siding. And of course the top was made out of cloth. So they were trying to save metal. This is a very impressive Pullman cabriolet. Pullman was another company who was making bodies, and it's bodied by Pullman. I don't know who was able to afford to buy such a thing, but apparently there were people who had the money for it. You can look inside. This is huge, even with American standards, with mahogany in it. Yeah, and the driver seat. Yeah, this is incredible. The way it looks, all the details, and it's a very nicely presented piece too. This flooring represents the showroom. Basically, they built a little showroom here, and these were the more normal cars you were able to buy. There was a four-door sedan, and then there's a convertible. When you went into the showroom, that was middle of the Great Depression, so they had not too much money floating around. And you can see there's large support beams but holding the roof together when you opened it. And it's got a gigantic suicide door. Looks very pretty. This is what the Horsch factory presented for sale, and that was right after they merged. Now this one is a really large car too. Yes, I can't really tell you much about it. It's just looking really nice. It's just got the right colors. Looks like a little bit of metallic color on it, and it's just an elegant car. Again, the mirror is on the tire, and some gigantic lights with Bosch horns on the front. It's really nice. This is a Super Cabriolet from 1936. This one is a Horsch 930. It's just a regular cabriolet, but it looks great too. It's too black for me. The other ones had nicer colors. Now you can see you still had a place for the trunk. You can open up, flip out these little holders, and you can put the trunk on. You can see another diorama here, very nicely set up in front of the Grand Hotel Royal. And there is a little limousine right here from Horsch. And then look at this nice dress. Incredible. How did she not fall in it? And then there's a nice limousine in front of it. That limousine is from 1935. It's a Pullman limousine. I would love to arrive to a hotel in this. There's another four-door sedan here. It was an Audi also, and they were showing the construction, the wood construction, what they used. This is a model, and this is an actual body of one of the cars, how they used wood and vinyl to construct these cars because there was not too much metal, the metal needed for the war effort. Now this is a serious anvil, so you can shape out all the shapes you want. There are some tools, and you can see a really big roller what this worker using up there. And then they were using some buffers and stuff to manufacture fenders. These are the shapes and forms what they're putting the fenders on. And then they were basically custom made all of it. If you look in the back, that used to be the Trabant factory there and there, but that's all gone. And before that, it was the factory where they made these cars. This is a part of some factory tools, what they used to manufacture them. Actually, this is a test stand, it looks like. It's like, please don't touch. I wish I could. So you can see that there started the engine, and then there's a dynamometer on it to see how much power it develops. And this is where you actually started it up and made it run. Here you can see all the transmission. I don't know how you call it in English, but they have these long belts and they run the factory, and there's like a big motor what runs it all. Used to be steam or any other means, and all the machinery was taking that motion with belts, and that's how they run their machinery. So they only needed one motor, and that one motor ran all of the machines. This one looks like it has different drills and bores what made on the engine blocks. And as we're going around, there's even an original bathroom set up here where you can see how the workers lived and worked from all. You can see that thing that's left over from the factory, and there were their doors. You can see the results of World War II here. They actually saved the Wanderer, and that's how the factory looked like when they were bombed. I do not want to bring any political things in here, but that's an interesting display of what happened. There's an exhibit about World War II machinery. You can see there is a Caterpillar, there are other engines. Here's a two-stroke engine, a two-cylinder, two-stroke water pump. And also there are some other vehicles, what's from the World War II era. When the war reached Germany, people were walking around with all their belongings and trying to find a place where there was no war yet. As we call this place was not an exception from this. There is an old DKW motorcycle from that era. Finally found the Trabant section. It's really hidden at the back of the whole museum. It's actually in a part of the old Trabant factory. But the first one is actually a four-stroke Trabant. Most Trabants had a two-stroke engine. These ones came from the last of the production. They actually had a four-stroke Volkswagen Polo engine. You can see it spinning around here on this stand. Trabant developed a three-cylinder diesel engine, which was shut down by Volkswagen, who by then owned the company. They said they have to put the not too strong but well-tried Volkswagen Polo engine, which is a four-cylinder gas-powered engine instead of this one. So this thing went down. They just wanted to have Trabant just to go away. It was an incense in the Volkswagen concern's eye. This is a pickup Trabi, which I never seen before. It's made out of mostly fiberglass. And then you can see the drivetrain of the late model Trabis. They actually had McPherson suspension on the front and the four-stroke, four-cylinder Volkswagen engine in it. These are prototypes, and the prototypes were shut down by the communist government, which they told them you can't make any better car than the little car, because then you're going to have parts, and then we can't make enough as it is, so they ended up just keeping the same old design, which was this. This one have the door removed from it, and then it's basically like a little game what you can play by moving the steering wheel around and try to drive it around. You can see some East German military equipment here. They were actually 6-cylinder engines, which is very rare. They're made by IFA. And then you can see the East German commie car. This was the real communist leader's car. It says Repräsentant on the side. And this one was a Sachenring, they called. In the front of the Trabi there's a little S, and that's basically stands for Sachenring. You can see the stereo speakers up front, and if you see on the wall, you can see how they use these cars on big May Day parades and stuff. They were advertising it for the friends of socialism. We got to the part where you can say this is the ultimate oxymoron, a Trabant race car. But think twice. This car actually been to the Monaco race, the Monte Carlo race, and I own a Trabant which also been to the historical Monte Carlo rally. So these Trabis actually raced, and they were not too bad. They have front wheel drives, and they were actually getting passed on the straights, but then they took the other cars back when they had to be going on snow or sliding around in corners. You can see an older version Trabi actually flying, which I would like to do. Is an old race uniform or race overall, and this car was the late model race car. It was racing up to 1990. These are very popular garages. When you waited 18 years for your Trabi, you really wanted to protect it from the elements and then store it real well. So they pre-manufactured these concrete garages, and that's where you kept your old Trabi. This one is a 500 and older version, and you're able to fix everything inside. There are available options to fix the bottom of your car, like changing mufflers or work on the suspension. And this was a machine you can buy. You can crank it up by mechanical means, put this big stand underneath. The other two stands over there, they were little triangles which all went into the jacking points of the car, and you was able to change your muffler. Germans really enjoyed the summertime when the sun finally came out, and they actually left Germany and usually went to Hungary with cars like this. And they were pulling their little campers. It was fully loaded with all the stuff. The whole family is in the car, and they were towing this surfboard on the top. It's windsurf, by the way. There was no waves around here. This chrome bumper is going for $1,000 now. It's incredible. Anyhow, they keep going, and this was an East German tent camper, and there's a 311. This is a Wartburg, and I have one of these which I'm working on right now. It's going to be red and white. Also going to have one of these Falldach roof where you can open up. But these were the East German summertime pictures when they were invading all the neighboring countries and going for vacations. There's a nice diorama set up here for the vacation time again. They had these pre-manufactured wooden houses, especially down in the ocean side, and they had these little tents what goes on top of a Trabi, and you can fold it down, and when you get to where you're going, you just fold it up and you're able to sleep in it. I love it. I think I'm gonna buy one or make one at home for my Trabis. You can see an original East German boat and a little Simpson on the very left. Believe it or not, they made a whole bunch of Trabis. I think more than 2 millions. This one is the 1 millionth Trabant what was made. Very nicely done. Actually, the same year when I was born. That was a long time ago. This was the older Trabi. That was from actually 59. You can see the two-stroke, two-cylinder air-cooled engine and the way it was set up and cut apart. This was also made from that material what they used, called the Duraplast. This is how the car looks like all together. This is a P50 limousine. They called it the limousine because of the back going down. This is how Trabant was developed. This is a P70 coupe. I really enjoy looking at this car. I think it's got beautiful lines. It's a little bit small because I'm kind of tall, but it's really great looking thing. They didn't make too many of them. Good luck finding one. There's a lot of wood parts in it, and of course the Duraplast cover on the outside. This is also a P70, still made out of the Duraplast material, and just to show how strong that car is, all the workers sat on top of it to demonstrate that it can take the weight. I'm gonna show you how Trabi was made. There was a whole bunch of loose cotton what the Russians sent to East Germany, and they didn't know what to do with it, so they developed a technique to make them into sheets with these machines, and the sheets came out like this. They mixed it together with resin, and they put it in a press, and then in the press the whole panel came out. One side was really bad looking, the other side was just fine, ready for paint. This looks like how they were cutting the body panels out. Here is the panel, what you can see, and that's how they pressed it out in that press. And then they were able to put the pressed panels on the Trabi, and they actually just used a little bit of cut to set up the gaps. You can see how this P70 was made. The outer panels were all made out of this. All the Trabis are just like this. There are some more East German vehicles. This one is a Horsch, this one from 48. They used it for recovering from the war, and that was a Horsch limousine what just remained from the era. There are some DKWs which they still wearing the Auto Union badge, but they already were on the eastern side, so there was a big mix-up, and then they made up the IFA, which on the right side. Have you guys seen a car which has hot water and cold water to wash your hands? This one had it. You can see another big Horsch truck and a little IFA car, and one of these Stoya sidecars on it with a 4-stroke MZ. MZ made 4-stroke engines. You probably can see it from here. It's a very rare piece. And then this was the Sachsenring. This was the company who ended up making the Trabis. It has the same Trabi sign on it on the front. It's called the Sachsenring factory. They even made a station wagon. Looks like there is a film camera in it. I never even knew it's existing. It's very beautifully restored. We continue our journey with some DKW stuff. They had these old motorcycles too. And this is like a street setup to see all the cars. A very nice old bicycle with a child seat on it. And as we move forward, you can see all these cars, what they made just between the two wars. And this one is an Auto Union also, of course. You can see the vinyl sides as we're going by. This one is a Wanderer. And the little motorcycle. This was after the war. This line here symbolizes the war, and this is after the war, what you see here. This was an ambulance, or some sort of repair car, and here's the Stoya sidecar what I have at home. That's what I'm gonna fix up very soon. This is a machine shop. You can see the little 2-stroke engine what these cars have. 2-stroke, 2-cylinder, but it's a water-cooled engine. Unlike the Trabi was air-cooled, developed pretty much from this. This one was a nice big Horsch, and this one is a more reasonable Wanderer with a motorcycle next to it, and then a regular plain Jane 2-door sedan. They made typewriters as well. Look at this, how wide that is. I don't know what was you typing on it. I wonder, a motorcycle. Very nicely prepared front-wheel drive car with chains on it. They also had a heated windshield on it. Look at that, the front heated windshield. It's like an add-on. But of course, you have to have your skis on the back, so there was a ski holder attached to the spare tire. This one is a half a convertible. Basically, you can open the top. The advantage of this was to save metal and don't use any metal. The side of the car is also have wood and vinyl cover on it. These people lived a good life with a nice little roadster next to it. Very nice dash on it. And you can see how they looked at the countryside and wandered around and lived a good life. There's another one. It's very tiny. It's actually had a 2-stroke engine in it. It sounds very odd when it's running. Very similar to a Trabi. Yeah, those people who couldn't afford the big cars, they bought motorcycles. They put their luggage on the back and they hit the road. The next part of the museum is showcasing the rich racing heritage of Auto Union. You can see these V16 supercars. They used to be taking part of the speed trials and other races. In Germany, they were V16 blown engines, as you can see it in a second. If you think about a Trabant, the Trabant was built in the same factory where these marvelous cars were made. So when you badmouthing a Trabi saying that's the worst car ever, yeah, it was not a particularly good car, but it was very well engineered. And those engineers who built these things, they are the one who actually put the German engineering into a Trabant as well. And when I was growing up, we really had no problems with those cars. This is a transport truck. This is how they were carrying all these beautiful race cars out to the place where they were racing with them. You can see this was their sign, the Auto Union sign, not an Audi, as we learn now. And you can see Zwickau. Zwickau was part of East Germany. Now they, of course, they united a very long time ago. And those kids who were born not too long ago, they actually born into this freedom, what they're enjoying today. This was a very nice day. There was no rain. German summer is usually cold and rainy, but at least it's windy. So with that, thank you for coming with me to this museum, and I hope you guys enjoyed my narration. I may have made mistakes. Please write me messages if I did. And I would like to hear from you, so just send me any messages you think of. Thanks, and then bye.